resolving to think in certain ways, but this is learning how to disconnect. In other words, learning how to circumvent that natural mechanism in our mind that automatically connects things, connects similar events, this now moment opportunity, this now moment event with something that's in our mind as a memory. If there's enough, if there's enough similarity there, it'll tap us into a state of mind that's identical to our memories, as opposed to what might be available in the now moment, which may be very different than what we think that it is. I mean, that's where we have relationship problems, communication problems. It's like it's this connect mechanism really does cause us a lot of problems. It really does, because in many cases, a lot of the pain and heartache that we feel in our lives is not connected at all with what's really happening in that moment, but you wouldn't be able to convince ourselves, or no one would be able to convince us, or wouldn't be able to convince ourselves that what we weren't experiencing in that moment wasn't real, because what we were experiencing was the energy. It was the fear, the confidence, the dissatisfaction, the betrayal. The energy of it is real, that you can't say this is not what's happening. But the problem is that the interpretation of the information that tapped us into the state of mind, and the connection that our mind automatically made from this now moment to some memory in the past, could be, like I said, completely erroneous. When you look at the very nature of the universe and the way it exists, there is no possible way that any moment could ever duplicate itself. No two moments are ever alike, ever. And could never be. Because if you just look at it, if you look at physical reality, it's constructed of atoms and molecules, and those atoms and molecules are in constant motion. They are in constant motion. For two moments to ever duplicate themselves, it means that all the atoms of all the molecules would have to be in the exact same spot they were in some previous moment right now. And that ain't going to happen. So when you really get right down to it, every moment is really unique. Every moment in the environment is really unique. But our minds don't process information that way. Every moment in the market is genuinely and truly unique. But our minds don't process it that way. We have to train our minds to process it that way if we want to make ourselves the casino. If we want to put ourselves in the situation where we are the casino, then we got to get our minds to process information in a different way. Richard had a comment that I thought was really good.
We tend to associate with a winning trade or a losing trade. That when we do suffer a loss, we tend to think of ourselves as a loser, instead of that is just a trade that turned out a loss.
Right.
And when we do get a winning trade, we think, well, I'm a winner. So you get caught up in the emotion of it instead of looking at it, that was a bad trade, this was a good trade. It has nothing to do with whether or not you're a winner or a loser.
Richard, have you ever played the slots?
No.
Never?
Well, yes.
Why couldn't you say?
Yes,
go ahead.
Not anymore, because
no,
I understand.
No, I didn't say, no. Did I say, have you ever played the slots?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When the tumblers didn't come up with any kind of a jackpot, did you think of yourself as a loser?
No.
Why?
Because I know that the slot machine is rigged against me.
Well, okay, but did you think there's any possibility of ever winning?
Absolutely, because I did get some. But I eventually ended up with an empty pocket.
But in other words, you walked into it with the belief that on any particular time that you pushed the button that there was a random outcome.
Correct.
You knew that, right? And so therefore you didn't think of yourself as a loser.
Correct.
Have you ever thought of yourself as a loser when you had a losing trade?
Yes.
And what would be the reason?
Because I lost.
No, because you didn't believe that there was a random outcome, right? If someone told you from the very beginning that whatever outcomes that you experienced from any methodology that you picked to define an edge were random, would you be thinking about this completely differently?
It makes a big difference. Absolutely.
Yeah. So in other words, you wouldn't have the same emotional problems that you might have with the kind of errors and everything else that goes along with trading with fear if someone would have just said to you, you know what, there's a random outcome.
That would
Even
help.
though it's a pattern, and it doesn't make sense, and it creates a paradox for our minds. We got a pattern that produces a random outcome. If you believe that there was a random outcome, where would the emotions come from?
They would certainly diminish, if not
Well, they
go
wouldn't
away.
be. I don't think they'd be anywhere at all,
They
would
go
they?
away, yes.
No, I'm saying if you just right from the very start, what would you
Right.
have to associate with? If it's a random outcome, then you know that you're not wrong, right?
Correct.
So there wouldn't be anything to associate the outcome with any kind of interpretation that could end up causing you to feel some sort of emotional pain.
You're right.
All we're trying to do is get to that place now. Even though you've had all this backlog of experience telling you otherwise, that's where we want to get to. How are we going to get there? We're going to create an exercise. Remember the 5-mile rule? Okay, we're going to do the 5-mile rule in a trading exercise. Why are we going to do the exercise? You remember, we have to have clarity of intent. What is our desire? Our desire is to become a consistently successful trader, one where I can generate an income I can rely on. Okay? And so we are going to actually trade for a new reason. We're going to stay focused in the process of trading as opposed to the outcome. The typical trader is obsessed with the outcome of a trade. The professional trader is focused in the process of trading and letting the outcomes take care of themselves. As a matter of fact, the best traders that I've ever encountered love the process of trading. The typical trader, on the other hand, either has no awareness of the actual process of trading or